Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? I know it's sunny outside, but hopefully I'm not too late to come and teach you how to make a beanie. Now, this is my super slouchy beanie. You can make it a lot smaller, so it's a nice tight fit on your head. You also don't need to have this rollover, so you can have it so that it's just to your head. I have made a few like that, but I've given them all away as gifts, so I've only got this one left. I've actually got another one that you might like. There we go, my messy hair underneath. I made this for Christmas, which I thought was quite cool. So I made it mostly in red, and then I crocheted on a white trim and added a big white pom-pom and got lots of attention on my Christmas Day dog walk. So that was good. So yeah, this was nice and comfy. And then I'm 90% finished making this one here. So I'm hoping to finish that during this session, but I'll obviously start on a new one so you can see the beginning, but I'm not going to sit here and crochet for 2 hours. So hopefully I'll have something that looks like that by the end as well. So yeah, I'll give you a couple of top tips. I'm loving crochet. Crochet is getting me through lockdown, and do let me know. This is a bit of a new system, so I just have to look. Oh, here you go. There's a bunch of people come to join me. Morning, everybody. So yeah, I'm hoping some of you can crochet a little bit already. If not, I did do a video about a fortnight ago, and that'll be available on the Virtual Village Hall page, and you can watch it again. And lots of people said how useful it was, just because I've got 2 tips that I really go on about that really help people at beginner level learn how to teach. And I've been teaching it a lot on Zoom, so I've kind of learned quite a lot in that experience on how to explain things, because I can't be there in person to help people. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. And they also make great gifts. A lot of the people that I've been making them for are men, which I find it quite difficult often to make things for men. So yeah, finally I've got a gift that I can give them. Right, so let's get started. So today I'm going to actually make a, oh, someone's finished a lap throw. You're going to be totally fine for a hat. That's super easy after that. So you need to maybe download something like this. Okay, so I can post it in the comments later, but it's pretty easy to Google, and you just say hat size and something like this will come up. And as you can see, highlighted in yellow there, I'm going to try a toddler version today. My sister recently had a baby. He's got a massive head, so I'm not going to pretend to give him a small one. I reckon he's going to need a toddler size pretty soon. And it's quite interesting to see that the sizes aren't much different to an adult. Actually, they're only kind of an inch or so smaller than an adult size. So it's not going to be much. I did try making one without using a pattern, because I thought a baby's really small. And then I made this thing that was about that big, and then realized that babies have pretty big heads. So I had to dismantle that. So yes, the other thing I love about this pattern is that you can use any yarn. I'm not going to be giving you do 40 chains, you do this, you do that. It's a super simple pattern that you can use any yarn that you have at home. You probably will need more than 1 ball, depending on what yarn you've got. Like this one, I used 1 whole ball. And then annoyingly, I've got like that much left of a second. So I pretty much used about 10% of that ball, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, you often need more than 1 ball to make the hat, just as a warning there. And then we're going to work in just like lengths. So depending on how tall you want the hat, and then how big you want this, and then how wide your circumference of your head is. So those are the sort of numbers we're going to use today to keep it super simple. That sounds quite confusing at the moment, but I promise. And it also means you can use whatever hook is your favorite and whatever yarn is your favorite. So just going to have a little look here. We've got lots of people saying hi from all over the UK, and yes, people saying that it's nice and sunny. It's also lovely and clear here. So Gwen, my dog, might get a couple of walks today. So today I'm using a chunky yarn. If you know me, if you've ever met me, you know that's kind of all I use. I'm a lazy crocheter, and a size 6 crochet hook. Okay, and then I'm going to tilt this down. I've been like literally for the last 10 minutes trying to figure out, will you see things correctly or not? Is it going to be reversed? So yes, if someone else is going to use a double knit or a chunky, yes, absolutely, that would be perfect for this project. But like I said, you may need a little bit more than 100 grams, so be prepared for that. Okay, so can you see what I'm like now? My right hand is my right hand. Is that right? Are you seeing things correctly, or do I need to move my camera? I just, for some reason, maybe my coffee hasn't sunk in yet. It was really driving me a bit mad this morning, whether I was doing this right or not. Anyway, feel free to add in the comments, and I have got a possible plan if it's all the wrong way around. So we're starting with a slip knot. Okay, lots of people have different ways of doing this. I just do it like a little fish, and then I put the long end through the center of the fish, and then I close it up, and I've got my little slip knot. Okay, then I'm popping my hook on there, and then I'm just going to start working on my chains. So I know that I need to make a hat that's a length of 7 inches for little Billy. I also want him to have a little fold on his, so I'm going to make that about 1.5 inches. So that's the little, sorry, you can't see me, but the little trim at the front there. So I need to make a length that's about 8.5 inches long. All right, so that's going to be yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm not going to count. I'm just going to keep going until I feel like it looks like the right length. It's quite handy. I've got this board in front of me. Oh yeah, your right hand is on the left for me. Okay, let me just see if I can change my angle a little. Sorry about this. Like I said, I don't know why. Last week when I did it on my phone, and it was a little bit easier because I put it in selfie mode, and that seemed to figure it out. Will that make any more use to you? So my right hand is here. So I'm doing my I'll try and reduce the light maybe. So here I'm doing my chains. Does that make any more sense to people? Why can't I figure this out? I didn't think really that a computer doesn't have selfie mode. So I'm just doing my chains here. Let me undo that. Well, the good thing is that finally I'm able to teach people with left-handed crochet. If all else fails, better, Yvonne says, great. So I'm just doing chain through, chain through, chain through. Okay, so let me just keep an eye on the length of this. So I've got my little board. I'm nearly there actually. 7, oh, I'm there. I'm actually gone too far. I'm going to go 8.5. Okay, so that's an 8.5 chain that I've done there. And then I do need to count them now because I need to know for next time. So if you haven't counted your chains before, you don't count the one that's the knot at the end. So that's like a little bit sticky out. Which is your right hand? It's clear. Okay. Oh yes, yeah, I know. I need to upgrade my computer maybe. And then I don't count the one that my hook is in. So I make sure that those two I'm not going to count. Okay. I also find it really useful to you can see how dirty my house is though. Let me hide all this. I use something to count with. I find if you just use your eyes, then it can be a little bit confusing. So I'm just going to actually point at the stitches so I make sure you can see everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so my chain count is 24 for this super chunky, well not super chunky, but quite chunky yarn and the size 6 hook, and I'm making a hat for a 1-year-old. So obviously if you wanted to make a longer chain and you're using a different yarn, you would just count whatever you would do. So I'm just going to make a little note of that because I've got a terrible memory. 24. Okay, we're going to be using a half treble crochet for this hat. So for that, we always, because we need to turn that corner, we need to make sure that we add an additional 2 chains. So that's yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So we've got a total, I've now currently got a total of 26. Absolutely, and Yvonne says people's tension might be different. One top tip for chains, I'm quite loose crocheter, so I'm quite lucky. But actually some people really struggle with their first line. So you may want to, let's say you're using a chunky, you may want to use a size 8 crochet hook, even though you're going to then now change to a size 6. And that will mean it'll be nice and easy to go inside those holes. So that's like a top tip if you wanted to make sure that your chains were big enough to go into. So the reason we're doing a half treble is also it's one of my favorite stitches. But again, you could play around and use different stitches if you've got one that you're more confident with. It can't be too small a stitch, and you'll soon find out why. Okay, so let's try and show you in this funny angle how to do a half treble crochet. So you've got your yarn, you've got your crochet hook in however you hold it, like a pen or a knife. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a yarn over. Okay, so that's going from the back of the hook to the front of the hook. We need to skip 2. So we're ignoring those 2 chains that we just added because they're becoming the corner of the work. And then we're going into the 3rd one. Okay, so we're going in from the front to the back. And then we're picking up that yarn from behind because we're always holding our yarn between our fingers and behind the work. Again, I go through this in a little bit more detail in that beginner's class I did a couple of weeks ago, if you haven't tried that. Pull that through so you've got 3 hoops on your hook and then yarn over. You need to get this through all 3 of those. So I find a good way is to tilt your hook down so you're not scagging on it, and then you pull that through all 3. All those steps are quite a lot of steps are 1 stitch, but as you'll see, the stitch is quite big, so that's the advantage over something like knitting. All right, so I'm just going to continue to do that stitch all the way along this row. So it's yarn over into the next chain, picking up the yarn from behind, yarn over and pulling through. Okay, yarn over, in, pick up, over, through. So because I'm doing 24 stitches, I need to do 6 less than that. So whatever you've got, if you've got a thin yarn and you're doing 50 stitches, then you would need to do 44 stitches. If you're doing a super chunky yarn and you're doing 20 stitches, you would need to do 14 stitches. And basically at the end, we're going to do a slightly smaller stitch, and that will make the shape like an A-frame shape. So let me just whiz along. I probably should have made a smaller one for the sample. I forget how big babies' heads are. That's what people are saying. Yes, someone said that there is left-handed teaching lessons, and I don't mind. I teach left-handed people, but I do find it really hard that my left hand just doesn't operate properly, and I know what I'm trying to say to them, but I often just can't physically do it. So yeah, if you can find a left-handed teacher, that's really good. 1, 2, 3. So I've lost count a bit, but I'll just count back. So I'll just get in the zone. So I'm doing my hats. I quite like this weather. I feel like I could maybe go and do some crochet outdoors this afternoon. It's that sort of winter crafts, but in the slight sun. So let me just count back because I'm very close to the end now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in fact, I've gone too far. I want to have 6 stitches that I haven't put a stitch in yet. Okay, so I've got 6 left over. What I'm going to do in those stitches, I'm going to go down a size with the stitch that I use, and I'm going to put a double crochet inside. And the reason we do that is that it makes it kind of gather naturally at the top. Can you see the bottom here is wider? It's hard to hold it in this angle. That's wide. That's where all my treble crochets are. And at the top of every row, it's quite tight. And eventually that's going to be brought together to make the shape of the hat. So it's not a round hat. It's a kind of like trapezium shape. So a double crochet is slightly different in that you go straight in to the hole. You then pick up the yarn from behind, and then you do a yarn over and you pull through. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller. There's only a couple more tips that I need to show you really, because you're basically just going to do this line after line after line until you get to the hat circumference length. So for this one, it would be 18 inches. You'll notice it's always about 2 inches smaller than the actual circumference, and that makes it a good fit. So I would be working that way until I got to 18 inches. But there's a couple of things, a couple of top tips I want to tell you after making a few of these hats for friends and family that I've learned along the way. So was that 6? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, cool. All right, so you can see that's the end there is a little bit, that end is a little bit narrower than those. So that was my half trebles there. And then those are my doubles on the end. When I'm using British terms, you'll notice if you did an American pattern, they would call those trebles. And I think they call those like double trebles or something bigger. Everything's always bigger in America. Okay, so because we finish with a double treble, see how I've started it, with a double stitch, that only requires a small turning. And so therefore we just need to add one chain. And every time we end on this side, we add one chain. Every time we end on this side, we need to add two chains because that stitch is taller. So we're just going to add one chain like so. And then I'm going to flip my work like a book. So I'm holding it now in my left hand and I'm working down that way. And I'm going to do straight in, but for this bit, I'm going to go in the whole stitch. So the whole stitch is those little V shapes. I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to go into that one. So I'm going straight into that stitch, picking up the yarn and going through. So, okay, so it's just a double crochet as you would normally do it. Nothing special really. The reason I've highlighted that though, is that you're going to do it something slightly different when you get to your trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I'm just going to tilt my screen up a bit actually so you can see me again. So can you see my hat's got this nice kind of texture to it and it's got these kind of ridges that are formed. So that isn't just plain crochet. What's happened here is that I've crocheted into the back loops. Okay, so where you've got your little V shape, I'm not going into the whole stitch. I'm not going into the front one. I'm just going into the back of the V. And what that will mean is that little kind of row of stitches there will kind of be prominent, and that will happen each time you do a row, and therefore you'll get kind of a nice kind of ridge along your hat. So it's just a way of creating texture. There's no function to it. It just looks a bit nicer. So we've done our 6 double crochet. So we're about to do our 18 half treble crochet. And so we're going to go yarn over. We've got our little V shape and we're going to go into the back of the 2. So we're going into that one there. And then we're going to pick up the yarn from behind, yarn over and pull through. So it's the same stitch that we did on the way down. It's just the position of it is slightly different. So we're going into that back space. So I'm going to whiz along that line and then I'll do one more line. And then literally you just, like I said, you just keep doing that until you get to the width of it, or the length of it is the head circumference of the type of hat that you want to make. So let me just whiz down here. Let me have a look. I haven't actually looked at any questions for a while, but also look like you're okay. If you do let me know if you have any questions. I'll check again in a minute. I did think to write the pattern down, but it's just kind of, it's so adaptable depending on the yarn and the hook that you have and the person that you need to make it for. There's very little to write down really. Like I said, you can even do different stitches if you've got a preferred stitch. All you need to make sure is that you use one stitch that's bigger for the main part of the hat, and then one stitch that is narrower where the hat goes up at the top of your head. Makes it look a little bit neater. I have done it as and in fact, I think the one I've got on my head was just a rectangle. It was one of the first ones I made. Oh, let me stop. Here we go. Let me show you something. Okay, so I've been using the back ridges the whole distance along there. But on my last one, I want it to be a little bit more secure. And I want it also to, by here, look a little bit nicer. So what I do is rather than going into the back loops on the very final stitch, I go into the whole stitch. Okay, so the position that you would normally go into. So it's, oh, I flip my hook. So I'm going yarn over. I'm going into that whole stitch on the last stitch only. And like I said, that's just because then it doesn't pull and it's a nice solid finish to the line. And that's my line finish. I also have a nice square edge if I do that. Then because I'm on a half treble row, I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to flip like a book. And then I'm just going to start doing my 18 half treble crochets along here. Maybe I'll just do one more line just to make sure you haven't got any questions. And then I'll show you how to put it together. Is the back loop only for half trebles? That's right. Yes. Yes, that's right, Pauline. So the reason, I think it's just for the doubles, I find it's best to do it through the whole stitch because then it's not so loose. It keeps it nice and tight, which makes it kind of do exactly what you want it to do. You want it to go narrower at the top. So once again, I'm just going all the way along So only on the last stitch do I go through the full stitch. So just for that, so I'm just going to do 18 of these. Again, I'm not counting. What you can do if you don't like to count, if you're like me, I don't know how I put it, but you can put a stitch marker by here, and that will remind you when you need to stop. So where your 6th stitch is, like I said, I find it fairly easy to see where it is, especially when I'm using a chunky, because it kind of dips down quite a lot. But yeah, I've been enjoying making hats. I've even noticed a lot of men now wear pom-poms, so that's quite nice. You can, and a tip I have for that is when I make them for men, I put their favourite football colour pom-pom. I make it quite discreet. So if I've made them, say, a grey hat, and like, for instance, my stepdad is like an Aston Villa fan, I added a pom-pom that was grey and like burgundy and kind of a mustardy goldy colour. It looked really smart, it did. And and then he was super chuffed that it was an Aston Villa hat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got one more to go. So I'm going into those back loops. And now for those 6 double crochets, I'm about to go in the full loop. So straight in, picking up the yarn from behind and doing that 6 times. And then any guesses on how to turn the corner? Not guesses, does anyone remember? Hopefully you do. Making sure you go in the full stitch there. That's it. And then all the way to the end. And then it's just chain 1, flip like a book, and then it's skipping 1 and going back through. So 6 double crochets in there. And then for me, 18 half treble crochets. Well, so 17 in the back loops, and then the final one in the full one. And like I said, this is allowing for a hat that's going to have a small turnover for a 1-year-old. If you didn't want to include the turnover at the end, you just wanted a flat beanie, you obviously wouldn't include that dimension. But I added that manually because the hat should have been 7, but I've added 1.5 inches to allow for a little turnover. Okay, so I think that probably has you. I'm going to pop this back here because I'm getting a bad back saying that. So I think that should have you sorted, and you would just literally carry on going up and down, up and down, up and down, and then you end up with this. If anyone's interested in what this yarn is, I was a bit disappointed actually to find out that they're discontinuing it, but maybe you'll be able to grab some. It's called Helter Skelter, and it comes in 100-gram balls. I do get a similar one. I haven't got many at home. But from Mariner Yarns. Mariner, I'm not sure where they come from, but we sell them here in Shaw's shops. They sell them on Mariner's website and on Shaw's websites, and they're quite cheap. I also quite like a cheap yarn. So they're about £2.50 for a ball, and they come in. They have gradiented ones in double knit, chunky, and super chunky. So again, you could decide on depending on what sort of hat you wanted. But yeah, this one was the Helter Skelter. Like I said, hopefully we can put the pressure on and they can bring it back. So I think it's really nice. It's really nice to work with. So at the end, you should have something that looks a bit like a skirt. Okay, so it's narrower at the top where I've done my 6 double crochets, and it's wider at the bottom where I've done, I can't remember how many this was. This was 30, something like that, 36 maybe. It's a little bit thinner, this yarn, and it's an adult hat as well. So I'm about to put it together. So give me a second. So I've finished and I've left myself a meter's worth of thread, and then maybe I'll do this in reverse, but there isn't much to take in. Doesn't really matter if this is the right way or not. So I'm just going to finish off. So that's the loop I just finished on. Oh, I did want to show you how to change colour. Maybe I'll do that on that in a second, or change yarn. Remind me at the end. So I'm taking the end that I just finished with, cutting about a meter off, and then I'm just going to pass that through. Now, if you can engineer your design. By the way, I didn't actually mention, when did I stop? I kind of measured it on the ruler, but also I tried it on my head, which I thought was probably the most important thing to do. So I have a fold back and I tried it on, and I felt like that was quite a good size for my head to keep me snug. Ooh, inside there. Okay, so that was the look that I went for, and I thought, right, I can stop crocheting now. But the other thing I've tried to do is I've tried to stop at the opposite end to the top. So I've stopped at the end of the treble crochets, and you'll see why soon. It isn't the end of the world if you don't do that, but if you've got a choice, then try and stop at the half treble end rather than this end, because we need that thread later up here. So it'll be pretty handy not to have to add another. But like I said, it's not the end of the world if you do. Make sure it fits you is most important. So I'm just adding a darning needle to that meter thread that was left at the end. And here we go. Okay, so there is kind of, you would normally say that the side where the arrows were facing downwards, so towards your head, would be the front of your work. But I actually foolishly changed my yarn there. I kind of forgot and I changed, so that's back there. But let me have a look. Which side do I prefer? I think that's more important. I do think I prefer this side. I'll deal with that later. So this is going to be the front of my hat. And again, I don't think that it makes a massive difference. I think it'd be a personal preference. So I'm going to put it together on the inside, just in case I do it not very attractively. It'll be hidden away from me. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the two ends together and I'm going to weave back and forth like a kind of ladder from one side to the other. So I'm just going from stitch 1 over to stitch 1 there. I'm then going into stitch 2, into stitch 2, 3, 3. So I just have to make some small talk because I've got like 30 of these to go. 4, 4. Skip along a bit. 5. Let's try and do a couple at a time. 6. I'll talk to you a little bit about pom-poms actually whilst we're doing that. So I tried making a pom-pom in this stuff, but I actually found that it was a bit hectic because this was multicolored, the hat itself. I also tried making like a multi-pom with some other colors I had at home, but I also thought that looked a bit too much. So in the end, I just selected a color that was in it. I'm fortunate to have quite a lot of yarn at home. So I've gone for this kind of green color. And I actually thought that would be quite nice because I may give this to my sister. I may keep it myself, we'll see. But then my nephew can have this one and I'll make him a pom-pom with this. So they're kind of coordinated. Aww. Coordinated, but not too over the top. Maybe it will be when I can finally see him, then we can go out and have matching hats on. That'll be nice. Yes, Wendy's asked for that chart. As soon as I finish chatting away, I will share that picture because it is quite good to have the same one, isn't it? I thought I had a look. There's a load on Google, but I did quite like that one. I just thought it was quite simple, and I know the measurements are good. I'll do that in a few minutes. So I'm just going to get myself up to the top, and of course you don't have to add a pom-pom to it, by the way, and that's total personal preference. It ends quite neatly, so you can just finish it without one. But I think a pom-pom's great. And I don't know how you make your pom-poms, but I would highly recommend these little plastic things that you get in like Home Bargains, etc. Once you've figured out how to put them together like this and wrap the yarn, they're just so quick. You can just whip up pom-poms in minutes. Anyone else? Yeah, I think you've all got your questions in. That's good. It's great to see all these people crocheting. The only problem I'm finding is that it's quite hard to get hold of yarn at the moment. We're doing like a blanket crochet along on my page, and it's going really well, except people keep running out of the yarns that they need. So just nearly there. And just be careful at the top because it's twisted in a little. Good. I like these sessions because they just give me the motivation I need to get things finished. I started this hat ages ago and then I had to pick it up last night and get to this stage. And now in the next few minutes, I'm going to have a hat on my head. Right, and there we are, all the way to the top. So the whole seam has been put together. And then what you can do is you can like weave it in a bit, so kind of knot it. So I go in and then maybe pass it through itself. You want to secure it at that point. And then we're going to use the same yarn, or if you did finish at the other end, you're going to need to add another piece of yarn, and you're just going to weave it, like zigzag it along the whole circumference of this. So I'm just going to go quite close to the top, especially if you're not having a pom-pom. You know, if you have a pom-pom, the good thing is it hides a lot of the messiness. So I'm just taking it through, doing a few. Oh yes, Linda says that Aldi's got a good supply. They have. Do you know what though? Because I'm in Wales, we aren't allowed to, it's all hidden here. I hadn't really realized this until the other day, is we can't, all those kind of gardening stuff and clothes and yarn is all covered up in all our shops. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. We've got a new announcement due, postman, thank you, on Friday. I'm really hoping that non-essential shops can start selling things, because I think things like wool are obviously really important to keep us sane. I think that's all the way around, but I did manage to get some. I found, because you kind of like, it's there, and I just took some because I needed it. Okay, so I've just gone around the full circumference, and I love this bit, pulling it nice and tight. And obviously I'm currently working on, this is the outside, so I don't really mind that this ugly strand is here. And what I'm going to do is to make sure that's really nice and tight, is I'm just going to do some kind of zigzags, north, south, west, east. So I'm just going to go in all the way through and just make sure that it's kind of like totally tangled up, so that it's definitely not going to come off, or like, you know. And then when I've done that, it's quite hard to get through some layers. All right, so just to seal the deal. There you go. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to do just a knot to finish it. So I'm just going to weave it through, pass the end through. Nice little knot. I do have this random strand here. Oh no, actually that's connected to something else. Ignore that. All right, so that's the center of mine. I'm just going to pop that actually out through, because I want to have my pom-pom now. So I want that thread to keep going. So I'm going to turn it round now the right way round. It's up to you on whether you tack these or not. I quite like not tacking them, because then I sometimes wear it differently. You can wear it slouchy, give it a bit of a stretch, or you can wear it on a cold day and you can cover, oh, it's cute, isn't it? You can cover your ears. So I don't really bother tacking it, but if you do want to tack it, just put a couple of stitches, again, maybe north, south, west and east. Don't put it all the way around, otherwise it will, oh, I was really happy with that. Otherwise it will stretch and you won't fit your head properly. So the final thing is, I made this pom-pom earlier. I tied it up with the matching thread, so I find it quite useful to have a few ways of securing it. Of all the hats I've made, probably the biggest problem I've had is the pom-poms looking a bit after a while. So I'm just taking that thread and I'm just going to lower that down, and then I'm just going to go into the pom-pom in another direction. I'm going to weave it back out. Just going to kind of get it in a real pickle. Yeah, it's chunky yarn. I've got the packaging here actually. It said, what does it say? It's because it's like a decorative one. It's this yarn here. Helter Skelter, yes, it does say Helter Skelter chunky, and it says a 5 or 6 hook. And like I said, I think I used a 6. Yeah, no, it's nice, isn't it? Helter Skelter. Like, I was gutted to find out last night that I normally buy it at Wool Warehouse, but they've discontinued it. So I did find it in a few other places. So hopefully you'll be able to find that or something similar. That's gone all the way through. I thought then I'd had a knot. Yeah, oh, definitely. This hat, I always measure things now in movies. So with this, I reckon it took me about a movie last night. In fact, I watched Great British Pottery Throwdown for an hour, and I watched Grayson's Art Club for another hour, and I had the hat made, so I was quite happy with that. And then I'm using one of those strands that I had from the original pom-pom, and I'm going to knot that on. And I'm probably also going to knot it on the inside. I'm really going to make sure, like I said, I've had a few where I've given them to the early editions. I've given them to people, and then I've seen them wear them, and they've got this floppy pom-pom on the back, and I'm a bit embarrassed. So I have to go and like fix them up for them. So I'm also just going to take it through and maybe knot it on the inside as well. But anyway, I can finish that off later, just kind of tinkering with it a little bit, make sure. So again, I'm just going to really secure it. So I'm going in through the center there and making sure that pom-pom's going nowhere. I was going to show you how to change yarn. That's quite useful because, like I said, the majority of hats will require 2 balls of yarn. I'm just going to quickly tidy this one up. I think that's all woven in. Mystery thread there. We'll just assume that's okay. And this one. There we go. A new hat for my collection. I really like that. Nice, isn't it? So yeah, and I think these are about £3 each. So I'm hoping to make I won't be able to make another one, but I'll be able to make another couple of headbands or some pom-poms for other projects. So just to show you how you change yarn. If you do need to, if you're halfway through and you're new to crochet, just a little quick tip. I don't bother doing it at the ends. I normally do it in the middle of a row. So I'm just going to do a couple of double crochets to start this row off. And then let's pretend that my yarn is about to finish. So I'm just going to pretend this is my new yarn here. Okay. So I'm just going to go in as normal. So I'm going to do about the majority of the stitch. So I'm going to get to that stage. So I've got the 2 loops on, that's my double crochet. And then on the last pull through, so whatever stitch you're doing, on the final time that you're going to pull that crochet hook through, you just connect your new yarn and you pull that through, and then you're ready then to use that one. Now, also I'm double crocheting, aren't I? So that's that. If you can remember, it's really good to also pop those 2 yarns, the ends that you've got, your old colour and your new colour, over the top of the crochet hook when you first go into that hole. And that will mean that you're weaving your ends in as you go so that they're included in the stitch. So I do that again, I'm going in, I'm making sure those 2 yarns, it's quite hard to show, sorry, those 2 yarns are on top of the crochet hook. My new yarn is the one that I'm working with. And therefore, those 2 strands will be incorporated in and I won't have to do any weaving in later. But that takes a little bit of practice. And again, there's some great videos. And again, I'm always a big fan of Bella Coco because I like her videos. Just say Bella Coco weaving in ends on YouTube and I'm sure she'll have like a 2-minute video explaining that with a little bit more clarity. Cool, yeah, someone said, can they watch again? Absolutely, it'll be on the Virtual Village Hall page for ages, ever. And then I'm back for some Easter activities next. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm doing some Easter soap making and hopefully trying to think of some ways that you can do that with just stuff around your house. Great if you've got kids at home or you want to meet them on Zoom, some grandkids, etc. And I'm doing a Easter, macrame, which is one of my favourite crafts. So I'm going to teach you how to make like Easter egg kind of holders, and they could also be used to hold plants as well later in the year. So yeah, hopefully you got all that. Like I said, I was feeling a bit stressed at the beginning because I suddenly realised the camera wouldn't be right, but hopefully you got the right idea. And like I said, I'll maybe just write down the very rough instructions for what mine is. But like I said, the best thing about this is how editable it is. So you're just looking to create the length of basically from here to the tip of your head, but also you can use one of those charts, probably a bit easier. And then the width as the kind of the circumference of your head minus a couple of inches, so you've got a bit of stretch. And then you make that little kind of trapezium, pop it together, pop a pom-pom on the top, and go out for a walk and feel really smug. All right. Oh, great. Thank you. Yes, Vivian says that she uses Bella Coco. I've got a bit of fandom for her, to be honest. Oh, thanks, Anne. Yes, thanks, Kate, as well. All right. I hope to see you all soon and hope you're all keeping well. And yeah, have a good day. Size chart is coming your way, Anne. No worries. All right, I'll sort that out now. All right, have a good afternoon. Bye.